Kate, welcome to Imperfect Action. I am so excited to have you here.
Steph, I'm so excited to be here. I loved our in-person hangout and I'm excited to be hanging out online too.
Yeah, so for our listeners who don't know, Kate and I actually met in Boston at Inbound. And I don't know, I like to think we became instant friends. Well, like certainly on my side. It's always a little bit
Definitely,
awkward.
no, I'm with you.
So Kate, you run Entrepreneurs on Fire with your husband, John Lee Dumas. You host Kate's Take. You co-host Nicole and Kate Can Relate with our mutual friend, Nicole Baldinu. Why do you do what you do? Like, there's a lot of different things going on. So what is it that motivates you, that inspires you to keep doing what you do?
Okay, so this is kind of threefold and in no particular order. So much of what I do is driven by my desire to continuously better myself. Growing up and even into my older age, which is just like basically post-college and like corporate America and everything, I struggled a lot with confidence. I struggled with understanding that I get to choose the path of my life. And so all of these things kind of rolled into entrepreneurship and smacked me in the face. And I thought, oh my gosh, okay, more people need to know this. So that leads me to number two, which is helping other people discover that you don't have to live a life that you don't like. You don't have to be in corporate America if you don't want to be. And I know that some people love their corporate jobs, and that's great. I'm all about it. I just love helping other people discover what I discovered, which is you get to choose. And then number three is just, John and I, when we joined together to create our business, having a shared vision and then seeing the ripple effect of that vision has really inspired me to just want to keep doing what we're doing. I mean, when and you've experienced it as well, you put out the podcast, you have people tune in, they learn, and then they go and implement something. And that ripple effect is so incredibly beautiful. So that's kind of my multi-purpose approach to life and business.
Yeah. And I think that sounds really similar to my journey as well. Like coming to terms with the fact that there is more than one path to life. You don't have to just take that corporate role and climb your way up the ladder until one day you retire and then you have all of the freedom. Talk me through a little bit like what that process looked like for you, coming to terms with the world outside of corporate and finding your way into entrepreneurship.
So my big kind of my big push, what finally kind of broke the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. I was working at a bank and I had held the same position for about 3.5 years. Mind you, this position was at the bottom of the ladder. And so I thought, this is so much room for growth. And I totally am all about like putting your time in and working hard. I love working hard. Like I want to. So I'm there 3.5 years. I'm showing up. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to. I'm overachieving. I'm an incredible employee. Like I will toot my own horn all day about my efforts at this job. And one day my boss came to me with a promotion opportunity. And I was living in Southern California. The position was in Northern California. I said, you know what? No problem. I would love to relocate. I really want to further my career. I want to move up the ladder. I want a promotion. And she said, okay, you've got it. But just as a formality, we're going to go through the interview process. You're going to chat with their hiring manager, all of this stuff. So I'm like, totally fine. I get it. I do the interview and I'm waiting for the call that's going to offer me the promotion, again, all a formality. And I see the number on the phone ring. I pick it up and it's the hiring manager. And she says, you are perfect for this job. We're so grateful for your service to this company. We love, everything that you have, all your skills and everything has built up to this position, but we've decided to hire outside of the company. Yeah, I was crushed. I was really disappointed. I was sad. I was mad. I had a lot of emotions going on. And over the next, I'd say maybe week, I finally got to a point where I could see a little bit more clearly. And I thought, there has to be something else. And that was really the moment that I thought, I don't know what that is. I didn't really know about entrepreneurship stuff. I didn't know that people just like created their own ideas and then pursued them and were able to create a lifestyle and love what they do every day. But I knew that there couldn't just be that one way with how, sad and miserable and mad and all of those things that I was after that happened. So I promised myself that in 6 months, I would save up enough money to quit my job without having to worry about not having a place to live. And that was my first leap into entrepreneurship.
And now fast forward however many years, how long ago was this?
That was in 2011. So just over 10 years ago.
Just over 10 years ago. And now you essentially you're the heartbeat, as you describe it, behind Entrepreneurs on Fire, which, well, you've had like over 120 million, was it, downloads?
Yes. Yeah. Oh my
God. Oh my goodness. What did those first few years look like versus what it looks like now?
Very different. So when I quit that job and started my own entrepreneurial venture, I did it solo. So John was working in corporate America at the time. And I thought, I'm going to take all my passions and I'm going to have people hire me to do my passions. Again, not really knowing like how to start a business or how to set it up or what was required or any of that. So, I mean, the first few months of that looked like me with my laptop in a cafe being like, this is so strange. People aren't telling me what to do. And I don't really know what to tell myself to do. So I guess I'll Google a lot.
I can relate to that.
Yes. Yeah. I think we all can, right? Because when you're first starting out, there are so many unknowns. And before you've had the experience and kind of started taking the actions, what else are you supposed to do, right? I mean, luckily, eventually I realized that I could join masterminds and I could start going to meetups and mixers and surround myself with other entrepreneurs who were on the same path as me, which was so incredibly powerful. But that kind of led me to the next progression. Fast forward a couple of years, John had started Entrepreneurs on Fire while I was at a corporate job. And then once he picked up enough momentum, the audience was growing. He started monetizing the show through coaching, was his first avenue of monetization. And we were walking on the beach one day, I'll never forget it, in Maine. And he said, what do you think about quitting your job and joining me on the team? And I thought, oh my goodness, this is all kinds of scary because we were somewhat new in our relationship as a couple. We had just moved in together. He had started this business. I was working in corporate America. So anyhow, that first year of being entrepreneurs together and running this business together, so much of it was around me trying to figure out and uncover what I was best at, what I love doing, and how those two things combined could provide an impact for our business and for our audience. And that's really what it looked like then, is a lot of figuring things out.
Yeah, wow. And I think for so many of us, that figuring things out is such an essential part of the process. But a lot of the time we try to skip it. We think we need to have everything figured out before we take any action. We think we need to have everything figured out. Otherwise, if we have to figure it out along the way, it's failure. Or if we have to pivot, it's failure. But actually, no, the process of figuring it out is going to have those twists and turns. And I think that's what makes it so exciting.
Yeah.
So now fast forward to today, and you and John run a multi-7-figure business, it's huge. It's been around for a while and your podcast is huge. What actually goes into running a business of that size? Because I know we all say we want that size of business without realizing what goes on behind the scenes and how much work goes into it. So yeah, I'm super curious, like, what does it take?
Yeah. So our business has been through so many kind of like valleys and peaks. And that whole journey, to your point, I feel like so much of that is what it's all about, right? It's about the experiences and the lessons learned and the relationships and the failures and the wins and all the highs and the lows, like all of that makes up your journey. And that's the fulfilling part. That's the part where you get to see the impact that you're creating, where you get to see that ripple effect, where you get to hear from your audience and, mess up in one place, but then come back and do it better the next time. And that is really like all what has kind of come together to create where we are today. Even just 4 years ago, our business looked very different than it does today. We were headed down this path of more courses and more employees and more contractors and more, because you hear so much in the online space that, the bigger, the better, and you need a big team. And if you want to scale, you have to do X, Y, and Z. And we were kind of on this trajectory where like a lot of things were working really well. So we just kept adding more and more and more. And we got to a point where we thought, oh my goodness, this is not the business that we want to run. We don't want to manage 10 employees, and we don't want to have 8 contractors on retainer, and we don't want to manage 4 different communities. And so getting to where we are today has been a lot of that. Has been, a couple of years of hiring team and figuring out what that looks like. What does it mean to manage a team? And then launching courses, launching masterminds, hosting live events, becoming an affiliate partner for different companies, and bringing on sponsors to our show. And I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned through all of these different iterations of our business that we've had is, one, none of it happens simultaneously. Like we've almost had to take these, start a chapter and close it before we get to the next thing by choice. Like we've recognized that we can't just go and launch like 3 different things and have them be successful. That's not really how it works. And so a lot of running the business was about listening to our audience, finding out what their biggest pain points were, what they were asking us for, then sitting down and saying, how are we equipped right now to be able to deliver a solution to one of these problems, building out an outline for whatever that solution is, doing an MVP of it and getting proof of concept by asking people to pay us money for it, and then creating it. And that's how our business has been built, is one of those iterations after another, but never at the same time. And I think that's the mistake that a lot of people make, is they try and do like 4 of those things at once, right?
Yeah. Or they try to search for proof of concept without actually putting anything out there. I think that happens quite a lot as well. They think the more planning and the more research, quote unquote, because you can't really do a whole lot of research until you're actually asking people to pay money for it. The more planning, the more research that they can do, the more likely they will be to create something that succeeds. And I don't think people realize how much goes into just putting something out there, like finding out, what does my audience need from me right now? And how can I serve them right now? How can I help them with that right now? And then putting something out there, testing it, seeing how it goes, and starting that whole process again. But I want to go back to what you were mentioning before about feeling like you had to do more, because I think I've definitely felt that as well, especially, in the online space where you see everybody's just doing so much and you're like, I need to be doing that much if I want to keep up as well. I'm curious how you came to that decision to not continue or to stop doing more. And was it one of you, like, was it you first or John first, or was it something that you both realized at the same time that you wanted to actually stop doing more and be a little bit more intentional with how you were spending your time?
It was kind of in line with a big website revamp that we were doing. And we hired a contractor who came in and thankfully was very blunt with us about the fact that when somebody went to our website, they didn't know what to do. There were too many options. And they laid it out very beautifully in a way that just really clicked with both of us, and that made us very quickly realize that we were confusing people. we were trying to get more people to our site, but more people to our site when there's not something for them to do, or when they can't find what they want, or when they don't have a clear next step, it doesn't matter. So that was really kind of a big aha for us. I mean, it sounds simple, right? But it was in that moment that we realized, okay, we're doing this exercise to try and identify the one thing that we want people to do when they come to our website, and we couldn't even figure it out ourselves. So we're like, this probably means that we have too many things that we want our audience to do. And so we stripped everything away, and we looked at what are the 5 most impactful things in our entire business, and how can we double down on those 5 things to really like immensely embrace the 80-20 rule. And it was in that moment and over the next year that we ruthlessly cut anything that did not have to do with those 5 core things in our business. And that really allowed us to set our business up for the success that we're seeing today, because we were able to focus on the things that were actually moving the needle, this impact for our audience that we love doing, and that we're generating revenue. And that felt amazing.
Oh, I'm curious. Would you mind sharing what the 5 things are? Because I'm sure our listeners are probably thinking, yeah, but like I have more than 5 things. What are these 5 things?
Yeah. Okay. So for us, it was a podcast first and foremost. That's always been the foundation of our business. It was our email list, because that's our direct connection with our audience that we own. It was our affiliate relationships, our sponsorship relationships, and our physical products, which includes a suite of 4 journals and a physical book that John published. So those were the big 5 for us, and they still remain the big 5 for us today.
Interesting, because you also sell a course. You have a couple of courses, don't you? Or just the one?
We do have Podcasters Paradise, which is our, sponsorships, and the podcasts are one. And then it's our courses. Right now, our flagship course, actually, I say right now, but it's been so since 2013, is our podcasting community called Podcasters Paradise.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's actually, those things are quite broad. I was thinking when you said five focus areas, I was thinking it was going to be like, the podcast, a service, another service, a particular lead magnet, like really specific granular things. So they're actually quite broad. And I can imagine with those 5 things, you get your attention pulled in a lot of different directions. How do you, as somebody who is the heartbeat, I love that, the heartbeat of the business, how do you stay focused on what needs to be focused on? And how do you allocate your time between the different things that are pulling you in all the different directions?
It's tough. That's an excellent point that you bring up, because when you talk about them in such a broad sense like that, that could mean a million different things, right? Over the past 10 years, we've built a team very intentionally who helps us with very specific things in our business. So when I say the podcast and sponsorships are like one of our main focuses, what that really like results in is John recording the episodes, his personal assistant helping him upload and schedule those, having the content on our site to back up each of those episodes with show notes, locking in sponsor relationships with it, which is my focus, and making sure that we're delivering on those. And then, following up with our guests to see if they will share the show with their audience as well. So I say podcast, but like that's really the podcast for us. But that doesn't, eliminate your point of that's still a lot of different things in a lot of different directions. So I am such a huge fan of time blocking and batching. And so I have like themes for my days where, I know a day of the week of a certain time of the month is like my sponsorship day. I'm fully focused on sponsorships, communicating with them for talking points, making sure that the right sponsors are in the right episodes, doing any contracts, invoicing, that kind of stuff. And so I don't ever allow my schedule to include like a lot of random different things in the same day. I have a content day. I have a podcast day. I have a sponsor day. I have a course day. And so I don't allow them to mix and mingle because I know that that is a recipe for a lack of focus, distractions, context switching, wasting time, and so on.
Oh my goodness. Wow, I need your discipline because I tried to implement that. I've tried to make it that I only do calls on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and somehow they've bled into Wednesdays and Fridays as well.
It honestly is a constant practice. And I find myself slipping a lot because it's really easy to have an opportunity come up or, something come across your plate where you're like, oh, but I'm just going to sneak that in there. And once it gets snuck in there, it's an easy, slippery slope. So you're not alone. I totally bring myself back to this schedule often.
And like, I can imagine that you are also probably, you strike me as the kind of person who sets goals, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I'm a little bit, I have a complicated relationship with goals because, yeah, I either set ones that are way too lofty or I just don't set them at all. And I'm curious to know, like, what is your process for setting goals and how does that differ between maybe personal goals, business goals? Are they the same? How does that look for you?
So whenever I'm approaching a goal, I always look at it from like how overwhelming it feels to me. And if it feels really overwhelming, then the time I give myself to accomplish that goal becomes shorter. So the more overwhelming and complex, the shorter my time frame becomes. And really the reason for that is it forces me to get more specific about what I'm trying to accomplish. So like a couple weeks ago, I was chatting with a friend and she told me the reading list that she follows. It's a book club that they publish the books that they read and she kind of hops on, checks out those books and then chooses the books she wants to read. And I'm like, oh gosh, for the longest time, I've had this goal of finding a book list and I'm never really happy with the books I'm reading. And so I don't really ever get through books and that bothers me. And my goal is to read more books. But I'm like, oh gosh, finding a reading list. And then I'm going to have to like read a bunch of books to see if it's a reading list that I like and I want to continue following. And like, it was just too complicated. So I wasn't doing anything. And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to reach out to a friend today and I'm going to ask her what her favorite book is that she's reading right now. And that got me into my goal, not I'm going to find a reading list and I'm going to start following it and I'm going to read 5 books in the next month. It was, I need to reach out to a friend, ask her what book she's reading and start reading that book. That's kind of a smaller example, right? Like sometimes we have way bigger goals than that, but I find that really challenging myself in that way is incredibly helpful in getting me into my goal.
I love that. And I think that's so applicable to business because certainly earlier on in business, and I still do this sometimes, and I know a lot of my listeners do this, where we'll put the cart before the horse. We'll be like, oh yes, I need to choose where to host my podcast before they've even decided what they're going to podcast about. Or they're like, I need to set up my website before they even know what they're selling. In your case, it's like, I need to find a reading list before you've even opened a book. And I think it can be really demotivating when we start to look at all of the different steps, all of the different books we have to read versus just that one small action that's in front of us. So I love the way that you framed it like that. When you're setting bigger goals, how do you stay focused when they feel really far away?
So in 2016, John and I launched a journal called the Freedom Journal. It's literally a framework for how to accomplish your number one goal in 100 days. So the framework of this journal is literally you doing the same things every single day to help you get closer to your goal. And so even my biggest goals will never extend out more than 100 days. And I've found the most powerful thing in kind of adopting a daily routine around your goals is not only the accountability that it gives you, but also your ability to consistently check in with yourself to gauge your progress towards your goal. So if I say that I'm going to launch a podcast in 50 days, 50 days, kind of a long time from now. So what am I going to do today? And how does that affect what I'm going to do tomorrow? And what I do tomorrow, how's that going to affect what I do in 45 days from now? So with a routine of daily checking in and writing down one thing that you're going to accomplish that day that's going to help you get one step closer to your goal, checking in with yourself each night to say, did I accomplish what I set out to do? Checking in and seeing what's working for me right now, what's not working for me right now. And if it's not working for me, how can I either change it or get rid of it? And what's the one thing I'm going to do tomorrow that's going to get me closer to my goal? And every 7 days, 10 days, 15 days, 25 days, 30 days, you break it up depending on, what your full goal time is. This is what I do. If I was working on a 50-day goal, I would be checking in probably either every 5 or 7 days to say, okay, I'm 5 days in to my 50 days. What have I accomplished in the last 5 days? And what do I need to accomplish over the next 5 days to keep on track with the time that I have left? And the timing aspect of it is what gets pushed so often. We think, okay, well, I didn't do it today. I'll just do it tomorrow. But then what does that mean for what you had set up for tomorrow? And it means it's going to continue getting pushed. And if you don't have a goal date in place that you're holding yourself accountable to, your goal never gets accomplished. So that's kind of the way that I like to approach it.
Oh, and it feels like such a truth bomb about procrastination as well. I remember reading or hearing somewhere that it's like every time you procrastinate, you're just pushing your dreams further into the future. And it was like, oh, wow. Okay. When you put it like that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh, but so is this the process then that's in the Freedom Journal where you're setting these goals and you're checking in with them? Because I think people sometimes they think that freedom and goals and productivity, like the freedom and the structure just can't coexist. But obviously you've managed to create this freedom in your life by having that structure. How have you intentionally structured your business and your life to have both, the goals and the productivity and the freedom?
So this came as a realization of exactly what you just said. The structure creates the freedom. And I know that people who are spontaneous and don't like checklists and planning and timing. Yeah. You pointing to yourself. Yep. I know that this seems completely counterintuitive because you think that the structure is taking away the creativity or the freedom. For me, I've recognized that in my experience, that's what creates the freedom. So if I can be disciplined for X amount of time, it will give me my free time, right? We first discovered this in 2014. We'd been working on the business for 2 years straight. We had not taken a day off. We were up late. I mean, it was like hustle time, right? In 2014, we decided to take a 2-week trip through Europe, completely unplugged from our business. No email, no internet, no social media, nothing. So in order to do that with a daily podcast, we had to do a lot of stuff ahead of time, and we had to create batch work, and we had to figure out how we were going to schedule things because we weren't going to be online for those 2 weeks. We made a totally separate email account and we shared it with one person on our team. And we said, you can email us if the house is burning down. Otherwise, you guys have got this. We trust you. You're good to go. You know that we're out of pocket. We came back from those 2 weeks in Europe. Not only was everything going swimmingly well, we generated more money that month than we had the last month. And we realized something, that when we set up systems and when we create this consistency in our business, that it gives us the freedom to do something like take 2 weeks completely unplugged. And since then, actually, the last time we did it, because of COVID in 2019, we did a 90-day Europe trip. We were not completely unplugged. We were still checking in on our business, but we traveled Europe for 90 days straight with a backpack, and it was incredible. Now, not everybody wants to do that, right? Like you might find a different type of freedom that you want in your life to be able to hang out with your kids every day or to be able to spend time with your parents or whatever it might be. But I recognize that when we create things like that in our business, that it gives me the freedom that I want. And so that has been more than enough motivation for me to get myself in check and get our business in check and get our systems in check, so that we can have that.
Yeah, I totally resonate with that. In August this year, I took 2 weeks completely off the grid and went hiking through the outback. And I don't know if you've been to the outback. I know you've been to Australia, but I don't think you've been to the outback, Kate. But like, there is no phone reception. I had maybe 1 bar of 4G at the top of a hill. And other than that, I was completely unplugged for the 2 weeks. But it was so good because it forced me to delegate a whole bunch of tasks that I'd been holding on to. You know, the story of like, nobody else can do this. I have to do this. And it forced me to give them to my team and trust my team that they've got this, because they do. And nothing, the place didn't burn down. The house didn't catch on fire, and it was magic. It felt so good. But I think when people are starting out, they really struggle with that initial trust, or that initial getting those tasks off their plate and trusting that other people can do them as well as they can. Was this something that came naturally to you, or was it something that you had to build the muscle over time?
Totally build the muscle. I'm still building the muscle. Trust me, there's probably a good amount of things on my plate that shouldn't be right now. And it's totally because I hold on to them. Not that they shouldn't be delegated. And I truly think that I'm not a born manager. I'm very much like, I want to be in charge. I want to know that things are getting done, and I want to know that they're getting done the way I want them to get done. And over the past 10 years, kind of stepping into a manager role and hiring our team and delegating more and trusting more, that has absolutely been a challenging journey for me.
Yeah, me too. I totally resonate with that. And like, when you've poured so much of your own, so much of your time and your energy into building something, it's such a huge thing to trust somebody else with what you've created. And it's like, it's almost like giving, I don't have a baby, but like, I can imagine it's like giving your baby to somebody else to look after.
Yes. Yeah. But that's the thing, the same type of feeling that I got about those 2 weeks in Europe and setting up those systems and doing all of the work beforehand for us to be able to do that. I get the same feeling when I delegate something, the same feeling of like, why have I been doing this for such a long time? Somebody else can totally do this. And honestly, a lot of the times they do it better than me. I'm sitting here thinking like, nobody can do this as good as I can. And then I delegate it and someone does it even better. So I think that there's a lot to be said of kind of taking those baby steps. And I don't know if this has been your experience too, but the more that I do it, the more I see the benefits of it and how it helps me create the lifestyle that I want, the business that I want. And each of those steps is confirmation and further confidence that it's the right thing to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, each time I delegate something and get that off my plate, that opens up time in my week where I can now focus more on the things that I enjoy doing rather than doing the things that I've just been doing because I thought I had to. I totally relate to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Kate, I'm going to wrap up this episode by asking you something that you're the first guest that I'm interviewing since rebranding the show to Imperfect Action. But this is the question that every guest is now going to be asked on this show. So no pressure. Yeah. And I'd love to know, what is a time when you've taken imperfect action to achieve a goal, and what happened as a result of that?
Ooh, okay. I'm going to give you an example of something that I'm actually living right now. So mid-September, I went online and I Googled how many days till the end of the year. And it was like maybe 108 or something. And I thought, oh, okay. I have an opportunity, if I act fast, to do a 100-day goal challenge along with our 100-day flow. and invite people to join me completely free. Join us in our private Facebook group. Tune into my podcast. I'm going to be publishing a podcast episode a day for the next 100 days to help people accomplish their number one goal. So I didn't have a whole lot of time to think about it because the 100 days till the end of the year was coming up really fast. So I basically put together an outline for my intro episode introducing this idea. My goal being to actually publish an episode a day for 100 days and be in that Facebook group every single day to do a post about the topic for that day. And whoever wants to be held accountable and be surrounded by like-minded people and, have access to me to chat about their goal every day can join. And it's been a really incredible journey. Like I'm learning so much, not only about the commitment that you give to something like this. And, in the beginning, I'm like, 100 days is going to be so great. I'm a podcaster. I've been podcasting for like 9 years. I can do this. And I'm realizing that 100 days in a row is a lot of podcast episodes. Mm-hmm. It's creating a lot of content and a lot of editing and a lot of post-production. But I'm also learning by being in our Facebook group how impactful it is. If even just one person is able to accomplish their goal from this, it will be way more than worth it. And I think that when we, again, kind of going back to the beginning of our chat today, that ripple effect, when you realize that what you're putting out there is making such a deep impact for other people, I mean, that's why I do what I do. So it's been incredible so far. I'm around day 50, so wish me luck.
Oh my goodness. Halfway through. That's huge. And like, I know I said that was my last question, but this is my last question. Okay. Who did you have to become to be putting out all of this content every single day? Because I'm sure you have to let go of a few things. You have to change a few things about how you work to be able to show up that consistently. So who did you have to become?
I honestly think kind of the next version of my content creating self. I love creating content. It's always been like one of my passions is writing. And I really feel like this came into my periphery and that I accepted this goal subconsciously, unconsciously, whatever, not really knowing it, but it bringing me back to what I love to do so much, and that's create content. We mentioned a lot of other things that we focus on in our business, and sometimes that can pull me away from the content creation side of things. So I really feel like this came to me in order to bring me back there. And I'm really grateful for that.
Oh, I love that. Kate, if any of our listeners want to connect with you, maybe if they want to join the 100-day challenge, but 50 days too late, where can they find you? Where can they connect with you online?
Everything that we do is over at eofire.com. That's our home base. And I love having one-on-one chats with people. My email is kate@eofire.com. If anyone feels inclined to reach out and just say hello, I'd love to hear from you and to hear that you enjoyed this episode.
Thank you so much, Kate. We'll pop all of your links in the show notes. And I really appreciate you being here today. Thank you so much for this amazing chat.
Thank you. It was really great to reconnect.